My name is Susan Gent. I found out in March 2010 that I had a Chiari malformation. I found out I was having really bad headaches. They thought I had a brain tumor, so I went into the emergency room. They did a CAT scan, and it actually showed up on the CAT scan. It was a 17-millimeter herniation. I went to a neurologist that told me not to worry about it. It wasn't a big deal, even though I was having really bad headaches, neck pain. Started having trouble with my speech, my hearing, my vision. So I went to another neurologist because I was supposed to have a surgery done on my abdomen. They decided that, they thought I had MS. They decided that they wanted me to see a new neurologist about that. But it turned out it was the Chiari and not the MS that was causing the issues. I had my first surgery February 4th of 2014. I ended up being in the hospital for 11 days, ended up going to a rehab center because I wasn't able to walk after surgery. They don't know what happened, just that my balance and everything was completely off. That was a 6-hour surgery. I went into the Laurels for about 3 or 4 weeks for rehabilitation. I still went home, still not walking, still in a wheelchair until about June of that year, where I was able to start walking on my own again. And I did really good for about a month and a half after that surgery, and then mid-July I got sick and started throwing up, and all the pain and everything from surgery came back. So I started seeking out other doctors. Then I found in September my daughter, who is 19 now, also has a Chiari, seen Dr. Maher here at U of M. I had talked to him about my case right then and there. He looked at my films and decided he thought he could help me too. So I made an appointment to see him. And in January 4th of 2016, I had my second Chiari surgery. It was a 12-hour long surgery. I did really well. What happened was my brain and everything had tethered to my neck muscles and my back muscles. So that's where all the pain had come from, and they had to untether me all back there. So I did that, and then he put a ventric drain in because I had a synominga in the back, and it was pushing everything over to the wall of my back, of the muscles, and it had attached itself. The back had attached itself to the muscles in the back of my neck and my head. So my cerebellum was tethered, and the whole back side was tethered to my muscles. And then he put the ventric drain in, which was here, and then came out here into a drain next to the bed and drained that for 7 days. And that's how we found out that I have hydrocephalus. So I went back on the 16th, had another ventric drain put in, and then up until the 19th, and I had a shunt put in on the 19th. This is the shunt here. And then 2.5 weeks ago, I had a revision done here for the shunt that malfunctioned. I have 4 kids with Chiari that we know of right now. I have a daughter who just had a baby, who just found out she's got a pretty good sized Chiari also and will need surgery. And my son is a very minor Chiari, so he's not going to need anything done right now. Then I have another daughter who she's 19 and will need surgery. And my other son, he doesn't want to deal with it right now, so we'll see what happens later with him. I have 3 more to be tested, but right now we know it runs in the family. In the last 6 weeks, I've had, like I said, 4 surgeries to try to fix what's going on. And it's just really hard day to day to live like this, in and out of the hospital, in and out of MRIs, CAT scans, trying to figure out what is going on with everything. There's a lot of pain involved, a lot of, right now all I want to do is sleep. It's just not easy to deal with. It's not easy to know that I passed it down to my kids either. Because now 4 of my kids so far we know have it. I wanted to come tonight and just represent our group. I run a Chiari support group, so I just wanted to represent the people that I run here, and a few of them are here tonight with me. So
Susan came to me relatively recently because she was suffering from continuous symptoms after a Chiari decompression by another physician over a year ago. And she continued to suffer from headaches and fatigue, and was very much not living the life that she hoped to be. So we got another scan, and I think one always has to be very careful when recommending a repeat exploration after a Chiari decompression operation. But what we saw on Susan's scan was there was no question the cerebellum was tethered, was stuck to the dural patch that had been used at the prior operation. And so her MRI had a very abnormal appearance in that respect. And Susan really had symptoms when we asked her more particularly about the pain symptoms she was having. She had stretching symptoms in the back of her neck, and when she moved her head, she could feel pain. And the dura is very pain sensitive. And I think what was happening is that the neck muscles, which were attached to the dura, every time she moved her neck, she was in a lot of pain from that. So I thought that had to be fixed. And the other thing we saw on her scan, which concerned me, is something called an empty sella syndrome. Her pituitary fossa, the place in her skull where her pituitary gland is supposed to live, was empty. And that can be associated with high intracranial pressure, something akin to hydrocephalus, even though her fluid spaces, the ventricles in her brain, were not especially large. So again, in general, we try to be very careful when recommending a repeat operation for somebody that's already been through a Chiari decompression, even when seeing a patient as a second opinion, because there is a high potential for failure, frankly. But I thought in Susan's case, because there were these two significant findings on her MRI scan, that we had to consider more surgery in an effort to relieve her symptoms. So we brought her to the operating room, and we re-explored the back of her head, found the site of tethering, untethered the brain from the dural patch. In addition to that, put in a temporary drain in the head, an external ventricular drain it's called. Susan, I think, did feel better with respect to her neck pain, and she did feel really good while we were draining her fluid. And then I stopped draining her fluid, and she didn't feel so good anymore. The decision to permanently treat the fluid buildup with a shunt, I think, is a relatively serious one, and we went very slowly. We took out her temporary drain. Susan continued to feel badly after that. So we brought her in, and we put a permanent fluid diversion device, a ventricular peritoneal shunt in her head. And fortunately, I think she does feel better now. I don't think she's completely healed. I think she's still suffering from some fatigue and some pain, although I think she does look considerably better than she looked only a few months ago. So I'm very optimistic that Susan will have a nice recovery from this when all is said and done. But it's certainly still an ongoing process, and we're still continuing to work very closely together, hopefully for a good result.